It's not every day that you find Leander on the other side of the microphone and being questioned. But this is a very unusual setup, but this is how we're going to do it today. So welcome, Leander. How are you doing?
Like you're saying, it feels strange and funny to be welcomed.
You're usually welcoming people and
Yeah.
you're the one asking the questions. But today we dig a little deep into who you are and what you've done. People want to know who Leander is. Tell us, where do you come from? In fact, before we even get to where you come from, what comes to mind first is, where did you get the name Leander from? Who gave you the name Leander? Who gave you the name?
You know, why I laughed there is because for a lot of people it's still a very strange name. And for some people they actually think that it's a girl's name. I think recently, just 2 days ago, a little lady came to me and said, a young lady, she came and she said, "Did your parents want a girl?" And I said, "No, that's actually a male's name. The female version is Leandra."
Yes.
Yeah. And so Leander is a name that both my parents gave me, but I believe that it was mainly my father.
Yeah.
My father was an avid reader. So all of us in the family have these names. My brother is George Bernard Shaw, a famous writer.
Yes.
Leander Starr Jameson is, of course, the man who stood next to Cecil John Rhodes.
Yeah.
And you know, there's schools, there's hotels, there's streets even
Exactly.
that are named after Leander because he was that. And then, of course, there's poetry that speaks about Leander being this famous lover. And yeah, so that's where the name comes from. It's male. It's spelled as Leander.
Yeah.
I think let me make it very clear because I've seen a lot of funny spellings to that name, and it's English.
Yes.
It's not any other language. It is English. Yeah. So yeah, that's Leander for you.
No, interesting. So tell us about your childhood. How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Where were you born? Just the whole background.
Well, a lot of people would then, especially in Zimbabwe, would say in Ndrisamanyika because I was born and bred in Mutare.
Yeah.
Schooled from my primary school and my secondary school in Mutare. I was born in 79.
Yeah.
Mutare General Hospital, and grew up in Fairbridge Park of Mutare. For those who are familiar with Fairbridge Park, for those who are not, Fairbridge Park is the first neighborhood that you enter as you enter Mutare via Christmas Pass. Because we've got other entrances, but the main one is Christmas Pass. So if you're entering Christmas Pass, on your right is a neighborhood that is Fairbridge Park. That's where I grew up. Went to Bering Primary School in a neighborhood next to Fairbridge Park, which is Florida, grade 1 to 7, Bering Primary School, that's where I was. Then St. Dominic's, it's not too close to Fairbridge Park, but it is, let me say, adjacent to Fairbridge Park. It's in Murambi Gardens, St. Dominic's High School. It's a Catholic school for my Form 1 and 4. Then I went to another Catholic school for my high school. I was now in Harare. St. John's High School, Emerald Hill. That's my schooling. And then I studied international travel and tourism at Range House College. And then I worked a little bit. And then I landed a job in broadcasting in 2001. That's basically who I am. I come from a family with 4 siblings. That means we're 5 in total. I'm the second born. 4 boys, 1 girl. And my dad is late. Passed away in 1990 when I was in grade 7. My mom is in Mutare, Fairbridge Park. She's been taking care of us ever since we were kids.
No, interesting that you mentioned in fact a very broad background of your schooling. Certain schools come up, of course, St. John's. You mentioned St. John's.
Yes.
The other day we were actually talking about who comes from St. John's, and there's a whole range of people who come from St. John's. But before we even talk about your radio experience and so forth, you as you were growing up, were you a radio listener? Did you love radio? Where does radio tie in into how you got there?
I attribute my being an avid radio consumer, listener, lover actually, to my parents.
Yeah.
My parents both loved music and radio. In the home, it was always a fight. Is it Radio 3 or is it Radio 1?
Yeah.
Obviously, from the description I gave you about my father, you know that he was a Radio 1 listener.
Yeah.
My mom was a Radio 3 listener, and she would actually buy records. I remember one of the records that I distinctly remember her coming and boasting to us about was back in 1985. It was the album that contained We Are the World, USA for Africa.
Yes.
I remember when she bought it, she was like a little child because she came and waved it and said, I finally got it. She loved We Are the World. Of course, we then listened to the other musicians on that album, but it was an album, a double album, I think. Yeah. My father was a Harry Belafonte, Christy Berg kind of listener, Radio 1.
Yes.
So, yes, we grew up listening to radio with our Tempest Super 25 in the dining room.
Everybody had a Tempest.
Yeah, which then graduated later on. My mom then upgraded to a Tempest Super 100. Very loud machine.
Yeah.
It was a beast. Yeah. So, yes, my radio listening should I say ability, if I can call it that, came from my parents. But then George, the first in our family, was also very musical. He loved radio. He loved radio to an extent where he would try and experiment with the insides of the radio. So zaimbo kumura ma speaker, zombo fekera zvinhu singapfekerwa ipapo, until he started building his own little machine. He built a disco actually, a disco machine. So those three people were very instrumental in me loving radio. So I did grow up listening to a lot of radio.
Okay. Any other family members that are into media or radio, that kind of thing, or is it just you?
No, officially into media, I was the first when I went into radio, and the whole family gathered around me because they knew how much I loved it. I would mimic, I would do makeup radio shows. So when the opportunity came, they all said, this is your chance. And that opened up at 3FM. So no, nobody else is in media per se in my immediate family. No, I was the first one. I think I still am the only one. Yeah.
So tell us, how did you end up in radio? Everybody, I can imagine back then there was basically ZBC per se. There was not as many radio stations as there are today.
Absolutely.
And just being a radio presenter, there must have been a bit of a challenge. How did you end up in radio?
It's a long story. I knew the bug bit me at a very tender age. Primary school, all I wanted was music. I don't think I'd ever dreamt of being a presenter when I was in primary school. When you grow older, you're now in secondary school. What you really want is to be one of those people. And there were people who I was listening to, obviously, the likes of Peter Jones, Kudzima Rudza, Teach Mataz, Josh Makawa, Eunice Goto, Tsitsima Warire. We were listening to all that. And Simon Parkinson as well. And I said, I want to be one of those guys. So this was in secondary school. But you know, when you're in secondary school, you're so excited. You don't think that it's not yet time. But I started applying in secondary school, I think around Form 3. I was applying to Radio 3, applying, wanting a job. So that's how early I started. But I kept on applying to a point where I think when I was doing my A-levels, I wasn't getting a reply. They knew what they were doing, obviously. This child. But I didn't take any of that. When I was doing my A-levels, the bug had really beat now. It really beaten, and I was saying, these people are not replying me. So what did I do? I went to, I think in films they call them yellow pages. It's just directory, those big books.
Exactly, they don't exist anymore.
I looked for Admire Taderera because he was the boss then. And I looked for, in the directories they wouldn't write the full first name. They would just write A Taderera. I think there were 2 or 3, but there was one I just thought, I think it's this one. I was applying directly to his house now. To say, I must kundipindula ku 444 HG Highlands Harare.
Yes, Highlands in Harare.
So I said, ndakutumira kumba manje. And funny enough, I was actually expecting a reply, but of course, that reply never came. But fast forward now, how did I actually end up on radio? And I'm saying my family knew that I wanted to be on radio. And it was probably the only thing that I wanted to do then. So up came an opportunity. It was a sponsored show. sponsored by a soap that is no longer on the shelves now. It was called Fantasy Soap.
Yeah.
And what they were asking for, they had a competition. The competition was two-way. Either you were drawing something that would probably end up as a wrapper for the soap, or you were entering the presenters competition where you needed to get the newspaper, answer 3 questions, I remember. What are the attributes of a radio presenter, something about the soap itself, and the third question. And then that would qualify you to be considered for the competition, because what they were giving was 15 minutes of fame to people who just loved radio. So if you were to send these, and then you attach a wrapper, of course, that was the catch. You buy the soap, you attach a wrapper or 3, I don't remember. So I did that, and surprisingly, there was a reply. Yes, I was now in Harare then. There was a reply at my aunt's place in Cranbourne. They said, there's a letter for you. Brown and Kinlock, I think, was the agency. And they said, congratulations, you entered a competition. Now we will wait for the next stage. And the next stage then was supposed to be, we were supposed to go and have an interview. You were not supposed to go, but the radio guys were supposed to interview us. And then I got a call. They followed up with a call to say, you're going to be interviewed. Our presenters are Sophie Chamboko and DJ Munya. They're going to call you. I didn't believe that loud. I'll be very honest. I didn't believe that. Sophie Chamboko calling me or DJ Munya. DJ Munya was really hot then. And I was thinking, one day, funny enough, I'm walking home and I had my chidina. I see 498652 and I'm thinking, I know this number. And on the other end is DJ Munya. And he's saying, you won a competition and I'm supposed to interview you. And I'm asking, when am I coming? He says, no, the interview is happening now. I'm walking. But you can't tell him that. So he asked me a few questions and then says, we are done. You know, when you are not prepared and it's an interview, you think, I've done lousy. And I thought, it's good enough. I've spoken to DJ Munya. I've got stories to tell. And I told everybody. I spoke to Munya. Some didn't believe me. Some were excited for me. There was a next stage. And the next stage was now, from those interviews, they were now choosing people who sounded like they would do 15 minutes well on radio. So I get a call again. You have made it to the next stage and you're supposed to go and record with either Munya or Sophie Chamboko. Again, I didn't believe it. But then it was followed up by a letter and another call from the agency. We met in town, right? Joina Pepe. That's where we met. But Matizi Papanika shop kamweso kana Papa Lodza. Kainzi chibo.
In Zimex Mall.
Zimex Mall, yes.
I remember the one with the car and
exactly that one. That's where we met, and we were meeting this guy called Nick Goromondo. So he was picking myself and a lady called Ashley Chanakira. So what they were doing is they were recording people in twos. Because I think we were over 30, 40 guys who were competing. So they were recording people in twos. But then, of course, when they play it, you've got your own week that's dedicated to you.
Exactly.
So Ashley and myself, we went, and guess who joined us? DJ Munya. And I had the opportunity to sit at the back with DJ Munya. I took an opportunity to find out what he was about. I remember DJ Munya taking out some notebooks, like counter books, where he was writing stuff down. This is right there, more fire, Walker. It was all written down, and I was amazed to say, you understand? So we got to Shed Studios. That's where the recordings were happening. And the person who was behind the controls, may his soul rest in peace, was a very good gentleman, professional, and we knew him from adverts back in the days. It was Kelly Rusike. So he was recording. I think also helping with the sound was Peter Mparutsa. One of the Mparutsa brothers. I met Delani. This was the second time because earlier on I had bought the Future album. The CD from Delani. But this was the second time I was meeting him. And it was intimidating to see Delani. Then comes this. She had this presence, Sophie Chamboko. She spoke so well. And now they're briefing us. They said, one of you is going to start. We're going to do what we do, and then you're going to present with us, and then we're going to give you your 15 minutes. So outside, I'd met Ashley, and Ashley was saying, I'm going to go for it, and she looked so confident. The minute we got into the studio and it was time.
Yeah.
Ashley started saying, and I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
But then I told myself loud to say, this is probably actually going to end up on 3FM.
Yes.
This is my chance.
Yeah.
Just to enjoy myself and listen to myself. So I said, I'm going to give it my all.
Yeah.
I did it to the best of my ability. I remember when and everyone, I was like, you do this for everybody, guys. I remember, I've got the recording. They actually are heard in the background saying, it's bad. And I thought, you are cheerleaders. Thank you so much. Then Ashley came. Then it came, so you wait for your week when the thing is supposed to be aired. I told a few people, but your day comes and you're listening to your own voice on radio. And Sophie and Munya have introduced you.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Loud, I tell you, that was it for me.
Yeah.
It's done. It's done.
Yeah.
So we then have to wait for another 3 or 4 weeks because it was a competition. People were now voting for their favorite. And I remember 2 of my family members won because there was also some compensatory prizes. Yes. Some cash and some hampers. Yeah. But it was a long wait until the end of the competition. Yeah. The end of the competition came, the show is no longer on radio, there's nothing happening there, and you're thinking, but it was very nice. The next thing is the Sunday Mail, Loud, where I saw the entry form. Yes. Announces the winners of that competition. Yeah. And guess what? It's number 1, 2, and 3. At number 3 is Brighton Chitana. Yeah. The mailman. Yes. At number 2 is a lady called Sharon Pedzisai. Yeah. And at number 1
is Leekay. Well, before you called Leekay.
Yes, it was before Leekay. It was Leander Kandiero, and I was like, what? And I'd won the competition. Yeah. And then the next thing is, because I'm trying to cut this short, the next thing is, remember, all it was you're supposed to just win the competition, do your 15 minutes of fame. There was no promises for anything else. Yes, yeah. But then you get a call from 498-652 again. Yeah. And this time it's Innocent Chuma. Yeah. And remember, we were listening to Innocent Chuma in the evenings. Yeah. The Millennium Man, the people's champion. And you can tell this is his voice. Yeah. And he says, I've been sent by Tsitsi Mawarire. She was now the manager then. Yeah. You guys won a competition. Would you be interested? Listen. Would you be interested in joining radio? I'm like, what? KVG's got a show called Muvunzo Nando. Yes. And I said, in my head, I was like, is that a Muvunzo Nando? Are you asking me? So this is what happened. So Innocent says, if you're interested, you are wanted today to meet the manager, Tsitsi Mawarire. Yeah. I was at work, actually, when this call came. Yeah. My boss fortunately knew I'd entered this competition. They were also listening when this competition. I said, boss, you remember that competition? She was a lady boss. Yeah. I've been called to Pocket Hill today in the afternoon. Yeah. Can I please go? And she says, imagine I'm at work. I'm dressed up. But I ran home to go dress up even better. Or at least I thought I was dressed up even better. So I went. It's a long walk from Borodale Road to Pocket Hill because there's no cars going there. I walked and didn't even feel it. Went there, met Brighton Chitana. So I remembered him from the prize giving day. Brighton, you were phoning. Oh, yes, we're meeting Tsitsi. It was a long wait because then when we got to the reception, Shans were meeting. We waited until I think 4 p.m. Yeah, because we got there around 1. Yeah. And then finally the receptionist says, I'm delighted to be at Pocket Hill. I'm just excited to be at Pocket Hill. But then we start meeting some of these guys I knew. The first person I saw was Innocent Manase. Yes. And I'm like, Brighton. Then we saw PJ. Yes. Like,
the radio drive.
But all these guys, we can't even greet them.
Yeah, of course.
You know, we go to Tsitsi Mawarire's office. Yeah, we were starstruck. We go to Tsitsi Mawarire's office, and guess what she says? She says, wait a minute. Do we Leander you? And I'm thinking, am I already famous? But no. She says, when I saw the name Leander, I thought it was a female. And I'm thinking, oh my word, this is going south too quick.
Yeah.
It says, yeah, because in India, I really wanted females.
Yes.
I really wanted females.
Yeah,
I spoke to the other lady who was number 2, but unfortunately we couldn't agree on certain things, and so she's not coming.
Yeah.
But no, it's me. I'm here. It says, anyway. This is the story, guys. We're looking for people who help us in the library, but we will then be taught how to be presenters. We're about to move to Gweru. I want to know if you guys are ready to move to Gweru, and if you'd like to work in the library. I was like, if you tell me to clean, I'm here. So the long and short of it is, we agreed, and then she says, I want to listen to the tapes. We gave her the tapes, I think, a day after, and then we were told to come. So we were training, and we were also sitting in the library. But then the move to Gweru happened faster than they thought. And then so we were left at Pocket Hill manning the studio, myself and Brighton Shitana. That is how I got into radio.
Now, interesting story. You spoke about it starting off with the fantasy soap, and I can imagine talk about fantasies coming through fantasy.
Absolutely.
Through fantasy.
I think it was fulfill your dreams was the mantra or the logo for the soap. Fulfill your dreams.
And it did.
It did for me. Absolutely. And for Brighton.
True. So you spoke about beating Sophie Chamboko, DJ Munya, etc., etc. Who of the presenters then would you say inspired you?
Oh, definitely for me, Peter Jones was a big inspiration. I mean, the way he did his artistry on radio was amazing. But I was also inspired a lot by Teach Mataz. Teach Mataz, the Midas Touch. I think those were the days we were listening to the likes of Fungai Marange as well. And I was listening to Eunice Goto, Admire Tadera himself. The breakfast show then was totally amazing. It was Parky and Pause, Simon Parkinson. But to really pinpoint and say the person that I really wanted to become, I really wanted to become another PJ. I'll be really honest. All these guys were doing an amazing job, but Peter for me stood out. Peter really stood out.
Of your shows, let's just talk about shows between the very first show you ever did up until now, literally. Do you have any particular show that you're like, this was my most memorable show? Was it a guest? Was it just the show itself? Do you have any memories like that?
Well, there's a lot, Loud. Tsitsi Mawari, the late, God rest her soul as well. She really groomed me and mentored me. When Tsitsi believed in grooming young people, and I only got to know this when I started interacting with other young people, that she was like that. But I remember her saying, grammar, because there was still grammar in Masasa. I want to introduce you to some of the guys who will give us music. Because Murugutanga, and you might request some music and they don't know you. When we were going, she was driving and then she says, but do you really understand the power of radio? I said, what do you mean, Maimawari? She never wanted to be called Maimawari. She said, I'm Tsitsi. She says, have you listened to my show? And I said, of course, I grew up listening to you. I want you now to listen to it with a different ear. Some of the things that I do. So I started listening with a different ear. Her show was a magazine show. She was discussing all these important things, health, social issues. From then, I decided to do that kind of radio. When I got in, like I said, I wanted to be PJ. We knew PJ to be coming to the club with his own PA system, with lights and technology. That's what I wanted as well. But Tsitsi convinced me. So why am I talking about this? Because that's when I introduced something called Wedding Bells. I would go to Gweru just to do that show on a Saturday and come back overnight or the next day. Wedding Bells caught on quickly. Later on, I was to introduce something called Your 60. Oh, that one was huge. I still have the mail. Remember back in the days, we'd ask people to write. So I still have boxes of mail that people wrote in. Your 60 was very popular. But I kept on wanting to do different ideas. But the most interesting one and the most memorable one for me will always remain the 24-hour broadcast for World AIDS Day. This was crazy. I now think about it in hindsight.
Yeah.
And I remember people trying to resist it, to say, is that even possible? I'm talking about colleagues and even people within management saying, Ashite.
Yeah.
But I remember Tinashe Chiname and Mrs. Mkandla stood by me and said, we'll do it.
Yeah.
The 24-hour broadcast on the 1st of December of 2007 stands out for me as probably the most memorable for me, because I went in studio at 12 midnight and I left the other midnight, and I was just by myself and I was fasting, because AIDS then was really taking our relatives, our friends, our neighbors. And I felt like I needed to do something. We were also trying to raise a bit of medication. ARVs had just been introduced, but people were still skeptic, and there was not enough of that medication. So I wanted to bring awareness. And so I went in, and Beatrice Tonozai was with SAFAIDS then. She really helped us connect with National AIDS Council, SAFAIDS, IOM. So on the actual day, then I had about 6 sponsors who were sponsoring an hour each. So I had a lot of work to do. But around 9, 10, I was getting weary and tired. But I remember something that really brought me back to life was when my guest was the former Minister of Health, Dr. David Parenyatwa, who had also given an instruction to my manager, Maim Kandla, to say, I don't want Kandiero to call me doctor or minister. I want him to call me DJ David. I'm like, is that even possible? I only managed to call him that twice in the whole interview. And then I reverted back to minister or doctor. But him coming there meant a lot to me. I was tired, I was weary. I didn't know I was going to make it to 12, but when he came, he gave me this energy. So he left at 10, and then the other 2 hours were much, much easier for me. So that remains a very memorable show. But then this was ZBC. Remember, I then moved to Zim Papers, Star FM, introduced the Star Hit List, and then introduced the Gospel Greats. Those will also remain very memorable to me. So, but if I were to say, the major highlight for me still remains the 24-hour broadcast.
No, that's interesting. Taking you back again, things moved during your stay at ZBC in particular. Things moved to the 75% local and so forth. How would you say that impacted on how you presented or how you are as a radio presenter?
So when we started, the 75% was still, let me say, theoretical. I think they'd implemented it, but the presenters then, the people that were grown up listening to, were still playing a lot of foreign music. And so we got in as well in 2001, followed suit. But the law had already been there. And remember, this is the same time that the station is also moving to Gweru. We then moved, so it was a huge transition. You know, you're trying to play the same music that inspired you, but there's a law and there's also management that's saying, but what is happening to the 75%? But you also have your brothers and sisters who are excited for you, and they're saying, I'm going to play a local. You know, that was, and some listeners were also saying, maybe you new guys, I'm going to you understand? It was a lot of pressure. So we then moved to Gweru. We then joined the other guys later. And there was a bit of resistance to the 75% on behalf of the presenters. This is when it was under Professor Jonathan Moyo then. He then said, Ayo, Imimi 3 FM, Power FM, Makuita 100% local content. So you can imagine, huge shift, huge transition. Because we also wanted to play the foreign music. Kurgunetsa, Nelly, Kurgunetsa, you know, and we want to play that. But Tanzi 100%. I was storing anything. And like I'm saying, the listeners are also complaining. The artists themselves cannot make up the 100% of good quality music. So we're trying to make it happen. 24 hours of, and we are now in Gweru. It's a smaller city. Everyone knows everyone. As soon as you leave the studio, people know, that's Ningi, that's Ningi. Because this first studio was right in the center of town. So it was a huge transition. And we've left family back. I was still dating. So every weekend you want to come back to Harare, you want to. It was a huge transition, but we managed. And I sit here and say, we thank God, we thank the authorities for making it 100%, because the artists then saw that they had a platform and they knew that they needed to work. This is when producers started coming, the likes of Tony G, Country Boy Music, and then of course, who could forget Chamembe came through. So a lot of studios then came through, and artists and producers stood up to the task, and the music really started improving. Yeah.
So when did you start? Were you always Leekay? When did the Leekay name, the brand itself, start to?
Interesting. When I joined radio, it was not Leander Kandiero. I was proud to be Leander Kandiero, second born Mai Kandiero. I also wanted to make my mom proud. But I was calling myself Mr. Lee. And Mr. Lee had come from that rapper, Mr. Lee, who had done a song with Public Announcement, if you remember. So it was easy just to take Mr. Lee, Leander, and and artists and listeners also then grew to love Leekay. No, not Leekay, Mr. Lee. But some artists crowned me DJ Leander. To a point where there was a jingle that was done by High Grade and Kelvin B, which really caught on quickly. Was on the radio, big up, DJ Leander. So, you didn't call yourself DJ Leander. But because people call in and they refer to you as DJ Leander, the letters are coming in, and there's this jingle. You start also calling yourself DJ Leander. But it's not something that I had crafted. And I really felt like, no, Mr. Lee is a copycat of the artist. DJ Leander is not mine. What do I call myself? And then that's when I developed, but this was maybe 3-4 years into the profession, into the career, when I said, I'm Leekay.
No, interesting. So as you developed yourself and you got into radio, did you ever have the challenge? Often people listen to radio right now and they're like, this DJ sounds like so and so and so. Did you ever have that challenge where people thought you sounded like somebody else, or were you always yourself?
Directly, no one ever walked up to me and said I sounded like somebody. But I kind of knew or felt like I was trying to sound like my icon, Peter Jones. I think some of my presentation skills were really trying to mimic him. But for people getting into radio, they understand that it wears off. The more you find yourself, the more it wears off. But directly, no one ever came to say, you sound like Ningi. No.
Bit of a controversial question, I guess. My experience with the radio presenters, people who do radio, in fact, across all the stations, not naming any particular radio stations, because you're on radio and because people know you, there's the general leaning, should I say, towards the ladies that are trying to get with or trying to be with radio present. Was that ever a challenge for you? Or is it a challenge for you?
well, I'm all grown up now. But yes, that is also Ziriko. I won't want to beat around the bush. I think world over, popularity, money, power, they attract people. Yeah, they attract people. So yes, that comes with the territory. But let me say that I think something that saved me was I had just gotten into dating somebody I was very serious about, who I'm married to now. So that helped me a lot. But that doesn't take away the pressure of young girls, elderly girls, sometimes even people who are taken. They want to befriend you, they want to come closer to you, they want to be seen closer to you. So those challenges, yes, they existed. You asked me if they exist now. No, they don't, because I'm older. I don't think they're attracted to me anymore. But
you'll be surprised.
In the early days, but it's a matter of you prioritizing things. Prioritizing. Temptations come, and look, for the first time, people that you never thought would want to speak to you are speaking to you.
Yeah.
You know, there's groups of people, and we can't lie.
Yeah.
There's levels of people, and sometimes pani level you would this guy or this girl ordinarily would not have replied to me if I said hi.
Yes.
Or this person would not be speaking to me if I had tried to speak to them.
Yeah.
But they're now speaking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're thinking, wow, what do I do with all this attention?
Yeah.
But you have to go back to prioritizing things. There's a lot of fighting temptation that happens there. But yes, that comes with the territory. It did happen. But you navigate yourself through it.
Aside from the ladies, jealous boyfriends, jealous husbands who might have given you that call and said, why is my girl interested in you?
I did get a few calls. I did get a few calls because remember, cell phones were still new then as well. We had just gotten cell phones. It was just text. But, you get overly excited. Someone calls in studio. Can I have your number? You give them the number. They start calling you. I think my first problem was being called by parents.
Yeah.
And your number is the one that's popping up.
Yeah.
And and then you say, no, but it's your person, you understand?
Yeah.
And I can't ignore. Then you get one or two partners who really want to understand. But you see, the thing with radio loud is, for a lot of people, even when you're presenting, you are therapy for them. They don't know you, you don't know them. So they can easily tell you their problems, their challenges.
Yeah.
They can even share with you their joys.
Yeah.
So I would say most of the people that were calling were really people who were just excited to say, hey, guess what's happening? Or, Dipama one.
Yeah.
I don't think there was ever any of those calls from the jealous or protective partners that had any substance at all.
Yeah.
But yes, your number is appearing, or there's text that they've seen that mention your name. But it was just a few. It was just a few. And you know how, again, you navigate yourself through that. And you also have to understand where they are coming from. So you need to be polite, explain, and say, no, it's okay, it's all right.
Yeah. So now you've developed yourself, you're now known on radio, people like what you're doing. Have you ever been accused of kuvaira? Have you ever been accused? Have people ever thought, this guy is big-headed?
Leekay kuvaira, where I've been accused of that has not been how I conduct myself or how I speak to people. But it's when people want to invade your space too much, and then you start probably avoiding, or you stop it. I'm sure you understand. You have been in the circles as well. You understand that some people then cross a certain line where they feel they can call you at any time.
Yes, exactly.
They expect you to play their song at any time. They expect you to give them shout outs. They expect you to be accommodative each and every time that they want your time. So so ipapo ndo panozonza unovaira unofunga kuti basa chaunoita chinoshamisira. And the honest truth is, what I've told myself loud is, inini watch as an individual andishamisire, asi chokwadi chiripo ndechoti basa rinoitwa nema-radio presenter rinoshamisira.
No, interesting. So I've always wanted to ask, actually. I know you personally through Capital, heading Capital, to heading Diamond, to moving back in Harare again and being head of business development thing.
Sure.
What do you think makes you a good leader? What are the traits that people have looked at you and said Leander is the perfect person for this job?
Wow, that is a huge question. I don't think I can actually say that myself and say this is what makes me a good leader. I think what I look at loud is the results that I've produced. Yeah. And I start by the presenters who have come through my hands. When I look at them, I then tell myself that I probably did a good job. When I go back to Diamond FM and see the results of what we built, because I was the founding station manager from literally no station at all. We started building from, it was a wooden floor that we needed to fill up and then start constructing. And then we had about 98% of the people that came there had never done radio. And then when I see the likes of Wanaba Taps, when I listen to Prudipuru, when I listen to Tinash, when I see Chaya Maningi, when I listen to Ana Siduna, when I look at Mercy, who then ended up heading radio, now she's working for the Indian Embassy. All those people came through me. When I go to Star FM itself, when I listen to KVG, I feel proud. When I look at achievements, when I look at the Moxies and Dumiso, I look at Ola 7. I actually did a show with Ola 7, Yans Mugango. When I look at that, that kind of tells me that I probably did a good job with this. But I also can't take that credit for myself, because there are people who groomed me to lead. And one of the people that I have to mention who took time to deliberately teach me to lead, and I was wondering, why is he teaching me to lead? I'm a presenter. Was Admire Taderera. He taught me how to lead. And like I'm saying, I always wondered, the presenter, why are you giving me this responsibility? But I also have to pay tribute to everyone who I regarded as a leader. First of all, Tsitsi Mawarire. I remember she gave me some responsibility at one time from nowhere loud. She says, "Ina ndiskwenda kumutare agricultural show. You are going to lead the delegation." I'm like, I'm thinking it has nothing to do with that. She says, "No, the engineers, the presenters from all 4 radio stations are going to have to follow your lead." And we did it. And I remember after the show on a Saturday, we had teamed up with the nightclub. Yakazochinja mazita. Nightclub yoyo iripa gomba bebe. But we had teamed up with them, and they had said to Tsitsi, on Saturday night, drinks and whatnot for the ZBC crew are on them. Tsitsi was not there. And she says, "Leekay, Leander, you are going to lead this." I remember leaving that nightclub at around 3 a.m. because the tab, I was signing. Imagine, that was me. But the honest truth with you, Loud, is that the world hasn't stopped changing. And so broadcasting also hasn't stopped changing. Broadcasting has changed from the time that we were listeners. Remember, I was talking about Peter Jones, Parkinson, Tsitsima Warire. A lot of radio then was done by solo presenters. But now, because this is the information age, radio has become interactive, which is why you see there's a lot of demand for a lot of shows to have 1 or 2, 3, sometimes 4 presenters on one show. Because people want divergent views. They want different flavors of content creation and, ideas. So it has changed. And people can also now question you. I remember listening to radio. Whatever the presenter said, that was it. That's our radio. It must be true. But now we've got verifying tools. Uncle Google will tell you, and then you actually have WhatsApp to question the presenter to say, "Are you sure?" So I think because of those changes, the presentation styles also need to change. And because people have social media, people have other gadgets and tools and platforms where they can also get entertainment, information, and education, radio needs to be a lot more interesting. I'm saying it needs to be more exciting. It needs to be more interactive, involving as well. So this is why you see radio sounds like it sounds today. Yeah? I must hasten to say, though, the crop of presenters that came before me were very exemplary. These are people that were using analog instruments, like turntables, like reel-to-reel tapes, cassettes, to make sure that their product was on point. Now presenters use a mouse, and most of the stuff is edited for them anyway. So it sounds tight. But I'm talking about people who would split tapes with the razor blade and make sure and edit things and still make it sound family friendly. These guys were not using Google. They had to read loads and loads of print so that they would give us good stuff. I mean, I told you, and I wasn't embarrassed to say, Peter Johns blew me away. If you remember his jingles, they were out of this world. That shows you the intricacy that people used to, and the detail that they used to pay to their craft. Not all of them, but I have to say today's crop are found wanting in that area. The level of preparation has dropped. The level of dedication and passion has dropped. You can pick up, and I'm sure some of the listeners can pick up, that this person wasn't prepared. They're just winging it. They're just winging it. And back in the days, remember the lineup that we used to listen to on Radio 3? You know the lineup. Simon Parkinson, Sitsima Wariri, James Maridadi, Otis Fraser, Peter Johns, Kudzima Rudza. Everyone had something to offer. And it was different from what this one was offering. Now you hear a lot of copy and paste. You could even hear the same topic that was discussed in the morning being discussed. The same music that was played, you can hear it. I understand the issue about rotation, but rotation does not rotate any other song. Certain songs will be repeated, but pane pano songs wati ungori usimbo uyanga asina kuterera show yaningi and avawaya vango player because so I think that really needs to be looked at. I also think that back in the days, I understand, we didn't get a lot of it, but we just got a little bit of it. There was a lot of training that was happening through BBC, through other organizations. People were getting trained. People were flying to other nations. I feel that the nation now, because there's so many other radio stations and other platforms, the nation itself, and I'm talking from government level, they need to invest in a lot of training, capacity building, so that we match up. So those are the difference that I could talk about.
From your experience, any advice to new presenters, the presenters that are there? What do you think they should do different? What do you think they should improve on with what they are already doing?
I think the biggest advice that I would give radio presenters is radio is very powerful. Print is very powerful. This is why they say the pen is mightier than the sword. But I also feel like the microphone is mightier than the gun. It's a very powerful tool. And when we come to Africa, studies and those scholars have proven that radio is actually the medium for Africa. So a lot of people in Africa depend on radio for information, for guidance. And looking at the way the world is going right now, Loud, we unfortunately have a lot of suicides, stress, mental health issues. We have drugs, especially in Zimbabwe now. Bad marriages, bad relationships. People are not handling those things properly. So radio becomes that friend that people can depend on. I would love radio presenters to look at it like that. I would love radio presenters to watch what they say. Because somebody is already on the edge. They're about to take their lives. The minute we call them out, the minute we use the wrong words, the minute we just take something for granted, suicide, a lot of bad things have been said that push people to the edge. Some people have been called weak, which is why they lost out in their relationships. This is why they got divorced. And radio cannot do that. I'm saying do your research. Capacity building that I was talking about aloud is very critical. We got the chance, like if you remember back in the days when I was on air, I was very passionate about climate change, health issues, social issues. This is because the British councils of this world, the organizations, were taking us for workshops and teaching us how to speak, what words to use, what terminology not to use. I think radio presenters should take advantage of those workshops and not just go there for the PDMs or endai kuma workshop. Endai munodzidza how to speak to tackle some of these issues. I'm also saying people are competing with social media. Social media is a whole different animal. It's got its own culture. Certain words, certain characteristics are not welcome on radio. Unfortunately, because people are in competition, takuona zvimwe zvinotonyadzisa zvinoitwa pa social media. Ku social media hakuna headmaster, hakuna station manager, hakuna management iriko. Munhu anongovhura Facebook yake oita zvaanoita ndo ku social media. But I don't like some of the trends that I'm seeing where radio presenters now feel that for likes, following and whatnot, they can do what they can do on social media and bring it to a decent platform like radio. So all I'm saying again is if you're going to go into radio for money, for fame, for power, you're not going to make it. Go into it because you're passionate about it, because it is about people. So if you're passionate about people, you are going to make it on radio. Put work into it as well. The final product, panomuzonzwa wana Miss Red wachiseka, wana Chambari wachiseka muchiwafarira, pamunonzwa wana KVG, wana Niki, muchinzwa wana Ndundu uko zvichinakidza. Wanonzana wakomana wangu tour weku National FM wana Bojo. Muchinzwa wachita zvanoita zvezve. There's a lot of work that happens behind. I've seen college students sometimes when they come for internship, they want to go on radio, but they don't want to put in the work. So I'm saying if you're going to go into radio, please be ready to put in the work. There's blood, sweat and tears behind that 3-hour, 2-hour or 4-hour show. Kunotoshandwa to bring out the product. I could speak for the whole day, but I'm thinking as I speak to prospective presenters, this is what I would want to say. Don't get into it thinking it's child's play. Radio is not child's play. It's a lot of work.
So we've been from the beginning, we've spoken about the present and all the things that have happened in between. What would you like to see happen to the radio industry going into the future? What are your expectations? We already said social media has got its own angle, and these days there's a whole blend. Sometimes you can't tell the difference between what presenters are presenting on radio and what's happening on social media, kind of thing. But what do you envision for radio going into the future with what we've got today?
Well, you know what, Loud? I think at the beginning you actually mentioned that it must have been difficult to get into radio because it was just ZBC. And of course, the station that I was targeting to be on was Radio 3. The first thing that I would like to applaud the government for doing is opening up the airwaves. We now have a total of 39 radio stations operational in Zimbabwe, from campus radio to community to local commercial and to national, and of course the public broadcaster. This is a very good development, but it also comes with its challenges. I'm not going to talk about the challenges. You asked me what I would want to see. I wanted to see more competition. It's already happening. It's a reality. That's the first thing. But the second thing that I would love is for the radio industry to become a proper business. I want to see a radio industry or a radio sector that pays presenters well. Not just presenters, the producers, the technicians, everybody, the chain should be able to pay the people who work for radio well. You go to South Africa, that is already happening. I love some of the developments that are happening now on radio where companies endorsing, they're doing endorsements, they're doing ambassadorships for presenters. That wasn't really popular when we were there. It was more of sponsorships. You present a show, but now they're actually saying this guy is our ambassador. And you see they live well. But I would love to see anyone who goes at entry level to say, I'm going into radio because it can sustain me and it can give me a luxurious. I'm talking about luxurious because radio is a perception job. It's a perception industry. It's absurd for me to see a radio presenter who's working and they can't afford a decent pair of shoes. They can't afford a decent pair of trousers. They can't afford a decent meal. Well, I'm not saying it's that bad, but I'm saying I would want a situation where the corporate world comes, the leadership at radio stations make it a point that their presenters are real celebrities. Yes, they are celebrated because they live the life of a celebrity. If it's a radio technician, they say ndinoshanda ku radio ndi technician. That's why we live well. Producers the same, marketers the same, the people who do transport the same. I want one day for the radio fraternity to be one of those that children go to school to and say, when I grow up, I want to work in radio, not just for the popularity, not just for the fame, not just for the girls or the boys. No, because it pays well. I also want it to be radio to be the go-to for information and education. Right now, some of the things that are happening, we might just be losing it, but it can be revamped. Radio I want it to return to those glory days and be that place where people say radio in Zimbabwe is amazing, and that's where you go to if you want information. I also want radio to open up and integrate with the new technology. I see a bit of it happening, but I don't think radio has really opened up to social media, to the digital world. It hasn't really opened up to the other possibilities that are there. You talk about marketing, you talk about research and development. I don't think we're doing enough to make sure that radio. And then last but not least, this is very important to me. I would want to see us having radio broadcasting schools. You go to South Africa, you can go and from school, you can go and train to be a broadcaster. In Zimbabwe right now, it's part of the curriculum for journalism or media studies. Just a little part of it. I want us to groom proper broadcasters where there's a broadcasting school and people spend 2, 3 years, 4 years even learning the business, learning the art of broadcasting. That's where I would want to see radio go.
No, interesting. You mentioned about obviously the whole evolution of radio to where we are with social media. Just a side question comes to mind right now. What is your take on podcasts and audio shows that are happening online, which seem to be, well, at international level, seem to be giving radio a run for their money. I'm not so sure about the Zimbabwean situation at the moment, but they are coming up in their own ways. What's your take on that side of things?
I think let me speak about the Zimbabwean perspective. This is what I meant when I said I don't think radio has really woken up to the reality that's happening. People are busy. People are busy trying to look for money. Most importantly in Zimbabwe, or especially in Zimbabwe. People are busy, they are trying to hustle, that's what we say. So radio listening patterns have changed. But there's a time when people come to a point where they are relaxed. And they say, now I can listen to what's been going on. I don't think radio today has really woken up to that reality. This is why I was talking about them having to integrate, because that is stiff competition. It was already happened to TV. People pay for what they want on TV. They only pay for what they want, which is why Netflix came through, which is why DSTV came through. People pay for packages that they want. And those packages already have catch-up TV, where you can catch up on what you missed.
Exactly.
Radio hasn't really woken up to that.
Yeah.
Because outside the live show that probably KVG or Chambari or Ndundu does, there should be some platform where I can listen to Ndundu, because I missed him during the drive show, but I can listen to him probably in the same manner that he was sounding on radio.
Exactly.
Or maybe even different, because he's got more time.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he can edit, and no mistakes, nothing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking radio should start considering that there is that possibility. People are not just going to consume anything and everything because they don't have the time.
Yeah.
So they need to wake up to that, because there's some fantastic productions that are happening. Audio, not even video. Audio. And people relax, put on their... I see a lot of people now have got these little things in there. I'm always asking my children, what's the exact name for those things? Some say earpods and whatnot. But I see a lot of people, even adults, and what they're busy doing there is they're consuming information. What we need to ask ourselves as a radio industries, and when you listen, sometimes it's audio books, sometimes it's a podcast. Coming from outside Zimbabwean borders, sometimes coming from non-broadcasters in Zimbabwe, but they just happen to have interesting information that they've packaged. So we cannot assume that we still have the same number of audiences or the same type of audiences that we had last year or 2 years ago or 10 years ago. We've got the ability as a radio industry to do those podcasts, to package information so that people can consume it at a later stage. Let's get into it. And I think there's money to be made as well.
Definitely. No, it's been good. Any parting remarks that you'd like to just let the listeners know and so forth, just so we wind this down?
I would like to salute radio presenters who are doing well. I mean, it's pretty obvious, and it's a fact that not all of them are doing well. But there are people who stand out. Some people who receive accolades. Some people who make differences in people's lives. Some people whose opinion matters to a point where even the government can sit up and say, let's change this. I think that's what radio is all about. There are people who are making a difference in the arts industry. They are playing music loud because they are passionate about genres. I could mention names. I think Tempoman is a game changer in the Zim Danso fraternity. Yes, there are other people, there are other players, I understand that, and I salute them. But look at what Tempoman has done from the first days of Star FM. Now look at his clashes that are happening. People like non-dancehall people have become part of those conversations. Look at Tilda. The way she's managed to change people's lives. Sometimes you listen to Larry Kwirirai. Very profound discussions on his show. Who else can I talk about? Because I listen to a lot of radio stations. I can talk about stuff that's also happening on Radio Zimbabwe, which is the biggest station in the nation at the moment. You listen to some of the programs on Itwanana Tande Kile. And you hear what this is profound stuff. You know? He's popular for a reason, He's popular for a reason. Because the research that he does, and then of course his delivery. I want to hear, I could spend the whole day. But I'm saying some of these names, not Kutindowega, but I'm saying these names because I also want to challenge that guy or that girl who's got an opportunity, they've got the platform, but they're taking it for granted. All I'm saying is go for those accolades, go for those life-changing experiences, create value for the listeners, create value for the advertisers, create value for the stakeholders. If you've got the platform, some people make a difference loud by being given 30 minutes in a week.
True.
And they make a difference. Look at some of the guests that we hear on these radio stations. Some of them are mind-blowing, and all they have is 10 minutes. Only 4 hours weekly. Only 12. 16, but I ask So all I want to say is I'm challenging people who are not doing so well to start doing well, because it's a platform, it's a stage. It's got audiences, guaranteed. Make use of it.
No, it's been interesting. So there you have it. When we started having this discussion, we didn't, in fact, I didn't find it appropriate for me to properly introduce Leekay because there are no words that would have probably introduced him. So we just got into it. And if you've listened to the end where we are here now, you've gotten to know who he is, what he does, how he got to be where he is, and a whole lot more. And I'm pretty sure he's left your mind ticking on where we are going with the future. It's been nice hanging with you. And until next time.
Thank you, love.
Good to have you on the wrong side of the mic.
I like that, but thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.